Hello friends, welcome to my biology class. Today's topic is female reproductive system. This is in chapter 3, human reproduction for class 12. What are the learning objectives? At the end of this session, you will be able to define terminologies related to the female reproductive system. You will be able to describe the different parts of the female reproductive system. You will be able to label the diagrams, explain the process of oogenesis. You will be able to describe the different phases of menstrual cycle and write the roles of hormones in the female reproductive system. The female reproductive system consists of a pair of ovaries, a pair of oviducts, uterus, cervix, vagina, and the external genitalia. The different parts, along with the pair of mammary glands, they play an integral part in the different processes in reproductive system like ovulation, fertilization, pregnancy, birth, and childcare. Start with the ovary. Ovary is the primary sex organ. Now, by this time you are aware of what the primary sex organ is. So these organs, they produce both the gametes and the hormones. So here the ovary is the primary sex organ. It produces the gametes called as ovum and the ovarian hormones. Each ovary is located on either side of the lower abdomen, measures about 2 to 4 centimeters in length, and are connected to the pelvis and the uterus by ligaments. The ovary is covered by epithelium, and inside this is the stroma. This stroma has two zones. The outer zone is called as the cortex and the inner zone is called as the medulla. The accessory ducts. Now, just now we have studied that ovary are in pairs in the abdomen and they are attached by you have forgotten, ligaments. So these are attached by ligaments, and apart from the ovary there is a duct system which we will be now discussing. This duct system includes the oviduct or the fallopian tubes, the uterus, and the vagina. So this total duct system is required for the transport of the ovum which will be produced in the ovary. The first one is the fallopian tube. Each fallopian tube is about 10 to 12 centimeters in length and it extends from the ovary to the uterus. So this portion is the uterus and fallopian tube is this portion. Infundibulum, you see this portion is a funnel shaped structure. Funnel shaped structure which is near the ovary. This is the infundibulum. It ends with some finger-like projections. These are called as fimbriae. Fimbriae collects the ovum and then sends to the infundibulum and finally through the different parts of the fallopian tube. So the infundibulum leads to the ampulla region and then the isthmus region and finally the uterus. Let us see the structure of the uterus. The uterus is commonly known as womb. It is an inverted pear-shaped structure, opens through the vagina Wall of the uterus, this is the uterine wall. It has three layers. Outer layer is the perimetrium, middle layer is the myometrium, and the innermost layer is the endometrium. So the endometrium lies on the inner cavity. These endometrial wall is very important because they undergo cyclic changes during the menstrual cycle, and also they undergo heavy contraction during childbirth. External genitalia includes the mons pubis and the labia majora, labia minora, hymen and clitoris. Mons pubis is a cushiony of fatty tissue with pubic hair. Labia majora, these are folds which extends from mons pubis and surrounds the vagina. Labia minora are paired fold under labia majora. An opening of the vagina is covered by a membrane called as hymen. Clitoris is a tiny finger-like structure lying on the junction of the two labia majora above the urethral opening. So this is the brief description of external genitalia. Next comes the mammary glands. Mammary glands are the characteristics of class Mammalia. These are paired structures commonly known as breasts and are made of glandular tissue and fat. You can see here these are all lined by fatty tissues. Functional mammary gland is a characteristic of female mammals. Each gland is divided into 15 to 20 mammary lobes. These lobes has cluster of alveoli. These alveoli opens into mammary tubules, and these tubules joins to form ducts, the mammary ducts. These mammary ducts again join to form mammary ampulla, and finally the mammary ampulla is connected with the lactiferous duct through which milk is sucked out. This is a very simple path to show the different ducts inside the mammary gland. We have just discussed mammary lobes, alveoli, mammary tubule leads to mammary duct, which leads to ampulla, lactiferous ducts, and finally milk is sucked out. This is the path. Now the next important discussion is on oogenesis. Oogenesis means formation of mature female gamete. Here is the ovum. In our earlier discussions, we learned spermatogenesis in the male. Now in this discussion, we will learn how the ovum is produced. Here we find a great difference between oogenesis and spermatogenesis. Spermatogenesis starts at puberty, whereas oogenesis starts when the female child has not taken birth or still in the mother's womb. That means this oogenesis starts during the embryonic developmental stages of the female child. During that period, few millions of oogonia are formed within each fetal ovary. Now this is very important that after the girl child is born, no more oogonia are formed. Then what happens? These cells are temporarily arrested in prophase 1 stage of meiosis, and these are called as primary oocytes. So the child is born with the requisite number of primary oocytes. Each primary oocyte is surrounded by granulosa cells and are called as primary follicle. Now, in this discussion, let me first uh, remind you that you will come across certain terms which will be confusing. Primary oocyte, secondary oocyte, primary follicle, secondary follicle, tertiary follicle, and so on. So the term primary secondary comes twice with the oocyte and with the follicle. So don't confuse that. In this oogenesis, no oogonia are formed after birth, and the cells are temporarily arrested in the prophase 1 stage of meiosis, and these cells are called as primary oocyte. This is the part of oogenesis. Now, this primary oocyte, which will be forming secondary oocyte and then the ovum, this primary oocyte is surrounded by granulosa cells. And so, these granulosa cells and the primary oocyte will be now called as primary follicle. Now, if you see this structure, this is the ovary and these are the primary follicles. These are the several stages. Primary follicles will form secondary follicles, it will form tertiary follicles, and then Graafian follicles, and then it will be releasing the ovum. And this form finally it will form the corpus luteum. So these are the several stages. So out of those millions of primary follicles, what happens? They start degenerating, and finally only 60,000 to 80,000 primary follicles are left in each ovary. So what happens to the others? They all degenerate, and this degeneration of primary follicles is called as follicular atresia. It is not mentioned here, but if you are interested, you can remember this term. This is called as follicular atresia. Now, the primary follicle starts adding new granulosa cells, and they form the secondary follicles. These secondary follicles then grows into tertiary follicle, which you can identify by seeing this fluid filled structure called as the antrum. The primary oocyte inside this tertiary follicle by this time completes meiosis 1, and so it forms the secondary oocyte and the first polar body. This tertiary follicle now is converted into the Graafian follicle. This is a mature structure. The secondary oocyte, which is inside this follicle, Graafian follicle, by this time it develops the zona pellucida. Zona pellucida is a layer over the ovum. We'll discuss again zona pellucida in our discussion when we will study in details the structure of the ovum. Graafian follicle now at this stage releases the secondary oocyte, which is otherwise now called as the ovum. This occurs during the or on the 14th day of the menstrual cycle, 14th day of the 28th day menstrual cycle. This is called as ovulation. So we will study menstrual cycle again after this discussion, where we will study that ovulation occurs on the 14th day of the menstrual cycle, which is of 28 days. So in a 28-day cycle, at the middle of the cycle, ovulation occurs. Now it's time that we discuss in brief the menstrual cycle. Menstrual cycle occurs in the female primates, in monkeys, apes and human beings. An important term here you should know, that is menarche. First menstruation at puberty is called as menarche. Normally, the menstrual cycle is repeated at an interval of 28 days, but it may be more, it may differ from person to person. So the cycle of events during this 28-day cycle, there are several events. So all the events, the cycle of events from one menstruation till the next will be called as a menstrual cycle. During the cycle, one ovum is released. This is a very important, and you must note this, that the menstrual cycle starts with the menstrual phase. Earlier it was considered that the cycle ends with the menstrual phase, but now it is considered that the menstrual cycle starts with the menstrual phase. It lasts for 3 to 5 days, where I was just discussing the importance of the endometrial wall. During this period, endometrial wall breaks, and along with the blood vessels and the unfertilized ovum, they are released as menstrual flow. So if there is no pregnancy, then menstruation occurs, which means the blood vessels and fertilized ovum, they are released. So menstruation occurs when there is no pregnancy. Wherever there is a pregnancy, menstruation stops for the period. Next phase is the follicular phase. Here you can see this important diagram. Within this diagram, several things have been discussed. You see, this is the changes in the thickness of the uterine wall, 1 to 28 days, and this is the changes which occur. It changes in the thickness, being corkscrew shaped endometrial wall. So menstrual phase, follicular phase, and the luteal phase we will discuss, and these are the changes which you can see. Simultaneously, during this 28-day cycle, there will be a change in the ovarian hormones, estrogen and progesterone. Here you find that the estrogen level increases up to the 14th day when ovulation occurs. This is the 14th day mark, and estrogen high level is required for ovulation. Thereafter, estrogen level is not required, so it keeps on dropping. Progesterone, which was low at the first 14 days, now starts increasing. Why progesterone increases? It has relation with the corpus luteum. It increases for anticipation of pregnancy. But when after 21 days there is no pregnancy, its requirement is no more, it starts decreasing the level. You can see here. Next, the ovarian events, that is the stages of development of the follicle. Primary follicle, secondary follicle, tertiary follicle, and then Graafian follicle, and finally here on the 14th day there is a rupture of the Graafian follicle and release of the ovum. And the Graafian follicle now forms the corpus luteum. Corpus luteum synthesizes progesterone. That is why here in this level the progesterone level is high. Both LH and FSH surge is very much required. See, the peak in the 14th day, nearing 14 days. This 14th day surge is required for ovulation. So you have understood this part. Now, as soon as the menses is over, then the endometrium starts again regaining the thickness and keeps on increasing. LH and FSH increases, and just now I have told you that the LH surge causes the rupture of the Graafian follicle to release the ovum. This is called as ovulation. Ovulatory phase is followed by luteal phase. Corpus luteum now secretes progesterone, we have just discussed. Now, in absence of fertilization, corpus luteum degenerates, and this degeneration causes disintegration of the endometrium and menstruation starts. During pregnancy, all events of menstrual cycle stops. The cycle ceases around 50 years of age. This is not a fixed age. it can be lesser also, 45 also. So 45 to 50 may be considered as the age of for menopause. Normally, reproductive phase of female, the reproductive phase means it is from menarche to menopause. That means 13 years is the menarche, 45 to 50 years is the menopause. So this is the span of the reproductive period of a normal female. Since the human female is fertile for about 32 years, now if you just calculate this, it may go up to 32 years, it may be more also. Considering 32 years to be the fertile period, then 32 years into 13 cycles per year, considering 28 days as a normal cycle. So let us consider that in 1 year there are 13 cycles, and so 13 eggs are produced per year. Into 32 amounts to 416 eggs. That means during the total reproductive period of a woman, she can produce 416 eggs. Now let us discuss in brief the structure of the ovum. You can see the structure of the ovum here. It is a very simple structure. It is non-motile and larger than that of the other somatic cells. It is almost yolk-free, there is no yolk, so it is called as R-listel egg. There is abundant cytoplasm called as ooplasm. It has a large prominent nucleus and a nucleolus. Cortical granules, very important, lie below the plasma membrane in the perivitelline space. You can see here the perivitelline space, which is colored in pink. Now, cortical granules, will come across this in our next discussion also. They are collected in the perivitelline space to prevent multiple sperms entering into the ovum. So after a sperm enters, then cortical reaction occurs, and these cortical granules are accumulated in the perivitelline space so that the second sperm cannot enter into the ovum. There are no centrioles in the cell, but still it shows some polarity. How this polarity? The side which extrudes the polar body is called as animal pole, and opposite to that is called as a vegetal pole. Each ovum is enclosed in two coats. One is thin, non-cellular, called the zona pellucida, and the outer is the thick corona radiata. This is a thick corona radiata. Now, the corona radiata is actually formed of follicular cells. Finally, we come to the hormonal control. By this time, we have come across several hormones. They play important role in the female reproductive system. Let us again discuss what are those hormones and what role they play. At puberty, the hypothalamus secretes GnRH, means gonadotropin hormone. This gonadotropin hormone stimulates the anterior pituitary. Anterior pituitary secretes follicle stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone. Follicle stimulating hormone, now they all act over the ovary. What is the role? FSH stimulates growth of Graafian follicle and maturation of ovum. Number 2, it stimulates the follicle to secrete estrogen. Its pituitary gland, just now I said that it secretes two hormones, FSH and LH. Now, what is the role of LH? LH stimulates the release of ovum, formation of corpus luteum. Corpus luteum is formed from the empty Graafian follicle, and it stimulates the secretion of progesterone from the corpus luteum. Estrogen and progesterone together stimulates the functioning of the mammary gland during pregnancy. So these are some of the important points to be discussed, which you have seen here: hypothalamus, anterior pituitary, ovary, estrogen and progesterone, and finally acts on the uterus. So this is a very simple diagram. These red marks or the red arrows, they show inhibition, and this one shows the stimulus. So the levels of estrogen and progesterone stimulates these organs to synthesize, and when they are in much higher quantities, then they start inhibiting these organs to stop synthesis. So this is how the hormones, they play important role in the female reproductive system. Now before we leave, let me remind you some of the important points which you should remember. Primary and secondary sex organs, primary, tertiary, secondary, Graafian follicle, corpus luteum, these important terms. Different stages of oogenesis, duct system in the mammary gland, phases in menstrual cycle, difference between menarche and menopause, and the roles played by different hormones in female reproductive system. These are very important, so you must understand these terms which we have just discussed. And of course, in biology, you cannot forget the diagrams. Now here I am giving you one diagram. Try to level this. Already we have discussed in details of this diagram. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J. So these are the parts to be labeled here. Don't expect that you will be given all the 10 parts in a test. You may be given any 3, maybe more also. But you should be able to label all the parts. Here comes the answer. So now you can compare with what you have written and what is here in this answer. Finally, before I leave, giving you some questions. At the same time, explain these terms. Describe in brief the stages of oogenesis. Now here with the ploidal levels. Show a chart of duct system in mammary gland. I have already shown you one. Describe menstrual cycle on the basis of the following. There is ovarian changes. You may not be asked to write the details of menstrual cycle, but you may be asked like this. Only ask the ovarian changes or events, or you may be asked the uterine events or the level of hormonal changes. So such questions may also be asked. Next, with the help of a schematic diagram, show the role played by different hormones. Just now I have shown you the diagram. You can use the diagram also. So by this time you have understood the female reproductive system. I hope you have enjoyed the session. Not only enjoyed, you have learned a lot. Now, I would request you to repeat. If there is any part which you might have missed, you can take your time, see the video as many times you require, but be assured that you will be able to answer all the questions coming from this topic. We have for you the next topic, that is fertilization and development of 3 germ layers, in my next video. So you can search on my YouTube channel for this topic and other topics to come. Thank you very much for being with me.